Have you ever felt like you've crossed an invisible line in your life, a threshold so profound that you can never go back to who you were before, even if you desperately wanted to? Maybe you've noticed that the conversations that used to entertain you now feel unbearable, that the people you once felt close to suddenly seem like strangers speaking a different language, or that your own body has started rejecting things that used to feel normal, and you're wondering if something is fundamentally wrong with you. What if I told you that nothing is wrong at all? What if this discomfort, this sense of alienation, this feeling of being caught between two worlds is actually the most natural and profound experience a human soul can go through? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Today, we're diving deep into a phenomenon that Florence Scovel Shinn spent decades studying, a transformation she called the point of no return in spiritual awakening. This isn't about becoming more spiritual or adding new practices to your routine. This is about a fundamental shift in consciousness that happens at the level of your soul, a shift so complete and irreversible that it changes everything about how you experience reality itself. Has this ever happened to you? You wake up one morning and realize that you're not the same person you were a year ago, or even 6 months ago, and no matter how hard you try, you cannot force yourself back into the old version of yourself? Florence Scovel discovered something extraordinary through her deep spiritual work. Awakening isn't a process you can pause or reverse. It's like watching a butterfly emerge from a cocoon. Once those wings unfold, there's simply no way to crawl back inside. Your consciousness expands, your awareness heightens, your frequency shifts to an entirely different vibration, and this expansion is permanent. You are literally operating as a different being, inhabiting the same physical body, but perceiving dimensions of reality that your former self couldn't even imagine existed. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might not only explain the confusing experiences you've been having, but also reveal why going back to your old life isn't just difficult, it's actually impossible. And here's where it gets even more intense. As your consciousness expands, you begin to notice something disturbing. You can no longer tolerate the unconscious behaviors that once seemed perfectly normal. Gossip feels toxic, drama feels exhausting. Superficial conversations feel like a physical assault on your nervous system. It's as if your soul has developed an allergic reaction to anything that operates at a lower frequency than your new state of being. This isn't you becoming judgmental or superior. This is your energy field literally rejecting vibrations that no longer match who you've become. The question is, why does this happen? And more importantly, what does it mean for your life moving forward? Think about the people who were once central to your life. Close friends, family members you talk to regularly, romantic partners, colleagues you spent years working alongside. Now think about where those relationships are today. If you're honest with yourself, many of them have simply faded away, haven't they? And here's the strangest part. You didn't consciously end these connections. There were no big fights, no dramatic confrontations, no clear breaking points. They just drifted slowly and quietly, until one day you realized you hadn't spoken in months, maybe even years. You might have blamed yourself, wondered if you did something wrong, tried to force the connection back to life, but nothing seemed to work. Florence Scovel had a name for this phenomenon that will completely reframe how you understand what's happening. She called it frequency separation. What she discovered through her profound spiritual work is that human relationships operate on the same principles as energy and physics. When you undergo a genuine spiritual awakening, your entire energetic frequency shifts to a higher vibration. You're no longer operating on the same wavelength you used to, and here's the hidden truth that changes everything. Other people can feel this shift, even if they can't consciously explain it. Your presence begins to trigger something uncomfortable in them. It's not that you've become arrogant or judgmental. It's that your light naturally illuminates the shadows they're not ready to face. Your peace disrupts their chaos. Your authenticity exposes their masks. Your clarity confronts their confusion. And unconsciously, almost instinctively, they begin to pull away because staying in your energy field requires them to either rise to meet your frequency or confront the discomfort of the gap between where you are and where they remain. If this resonates with you, make sure you're subscribed. This is where we have real conversations about awakening, and I don't want you to miss what's coming next. This is one of the most painful aspects of awakening, and it's crucial to understand that this isn't punishment or abandonment. This is pure physics playing out in the key realm of human connection. You're operating in a different dimension of consciousness now, and most people are still anchored in the old paradigm. The journey you're on has taken you beyond the familiar territory you once shared with them, and unless they choose to embark on their own path of transformation, those relationships simply cannot exist in the same form they once did. This realization can be heartbreaking, but it's also liberating, because you finally understand that their departure from your life isn't a reflection of your worth, it's a confirmation of your evolution. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because the frequency separation isn't just happening on an emotional or relational level. Your physical body is going through its own mysterious transformation, and if you've been experiencing strange symptoms that doctors can't explain, you need to hear this. You might have noticed extreme fatigue that hits you out of nowhere, followed by sudden bursts of almost superhuman energy that make you feel like you could conquer the world. Your sleep patterns have probably changed dramatically. Maybe you need far more rest than you used to, or perhaps you wake up at odd hours feeling completely alert. Your relationship with food has shifted in ways that defy logic. Things you used to crave now repel you. Your body seems to have developed its own intelligence, rejecting certain foods, demanding others, guiding you toward a way of eating that feels completely different from your past habits. Have you experienced ringing in your ears, especially the right one that comes and goes without any medical explanation? Do you feel pressure at the crown of your head or between your eyebrows, like something is pressing or opening in those areas? Are you suddenly sensitive to bright lights, loud sounds, strong smells, or even the energy of certain places and people? These aren't signs of illness or imbalance. These are symptoms of your DNA activating at levels that science is only beginning to understand. Florence Scovel recognized that spiritual awakening isn't just a shift in mindset or belief. It's a biological transformation happening at the cellular level. Your body is quite literally restructuring itself, moving from a denser carbon-based structure to a lighter, more refined crystalline-based form. This is the physical manifestation of consciousness evolution, and once this process begins, there is no reversing it. Your cells are vibrating at higher frequencies. Your nervous system is rewiring itself to handle more light and information, and your entire physical vessel is being upgraded to match the expanded awareness you've stepped into. If any of this resonates with you, if you've been feeling these changes and wondering whether you're alone in this experience, write in the comments, "I feel this transformation happening." Let's create a space where we can recognize each other in this journey. Here's something that might sound completely bizarre until you realize it's been happening to you too. Your relationship with time has become absolutely strange. You sit down to work on something, and what feels like 20 minutes turns out to be 3 hours. Or you're waiting for an appointment, and 5 minutes feels like an entire afternoon has passed. You constantly forget what day of the week it is, not because you're forgetful or scattered, but because the days seem to blend into one continuous flow that doesn't follow the rigid structure it used to. You miss meetings not because you don't care, but because time literally slipped away from you in ways that defy explanation. Your phone says one thing, but your internal experience says something completely different, and you're left wondering if you're losing your grip on reality. But here's the revelation that will shift everything. You're not losing your grip on reality. You're gaining access to a deeper layer of it. Florence Scovel understood something that modern society has completely forgotten. Linear time, the way we measure our days in hours and minutes and seconds, is actually a construct, a framework we use to navigate three-dimensional existence. But when you awaken spiritually, when your consciousness begins to expand beyond the limitations of ordinary perception, you start touching what she called the fifth dimension, a realm where time doesn't move in a straight line from past to present to future. In this dimension, everything exists in what can only be described as the eternal now, a state where all moments are happening simultaneously, where past and future collapse into a single point of infinite presence. Once you've tasted this timeless state, once you've felt what it's like to exist outside the prison of chronological time, you can never fully believe in conventional time again. It's like someone who's discovered that what they thought was a solid wall is actually a hologram. They can still see the wall. They can still interact with it, but they know the hidden truth behind the illusion. This is why scheduling feels increasingly difficult, why deadlines seem arbitrary, why the concept of being late or early starts to lose its meaning. You're operating partially in a dimension where these distinctions simply don't exist, and your consciousness is trying to reconcile two completely different ways of experiencing reality at once. It's disorienting, yes, but it's also a profound sign that your awareness has expanded beyond the boundaries that most people never question. And if the time distortions weren't enough to convince you that something extraordinary is happening, pay attention to the increasing number of meaningful coincidences showing up in your daily life. I'm talking about those moments that stop you in your tracks and make you wonder if the universe is personally communicating with you. You think about an old friend you haven't spoken to in years, and within hours they send you a message out of nowhere. You're struggling with a specific question or problem, and suddenly a book falls off a shelf, open to exactly the page that contains the answer you needed. You glance at the clock and see 11:11, then check your phone an hour later and see 2:22, then look at a receipt and see 3:33, and these repeating numbers follow you everywhere, like cosmic breadcrumbs leading you somewhere you can't yet see, but somehow know you need to go. If this helped you feel less alone in your journey, just hit that like button. It tells me this message landed where it needed to. Florence Scovel was absolutely clear about what these synchronicities mean. They're not random flukes or your brain finding patterns where none exist. They're confirmation that you've entered into a state of alignment with universal intelligence, a flow state where you're connected to the orchestrating force behind all of existence. In this awakened state, the artificial separation between you and the universe dissolves. You become a conscious participant in a reality that's far more interconnected, far more intelligent, and far more responsive than the mechanistic worldview we're taught to accept. Every synchronicity is the universe saying, yes, you're on the right path, you're connected, you're home. And once you start experiencing this level of constant confirmation, this ongoing dialogue with existence itself, you cannot go back to believing in coincidence or randomness or accident. The veil has been lifted, and you see with absolute clarity that every single thing is connected, every moment is meaningful, and consciousness itself is weaving the fabric of your experience in ways that are simultaneously intimate and infinite. The impact of recognizing these synchronicities changes your entire approach to decision-making and navigating life. You stop forcing outcomes and start following the signs. You learn to trust the invisible guidance that's always been there, but that you're only now able to perceive. If you've been noticing these meaningful coincidences multiplying in your life, if synchronicities have become your new normal, write in the comments, "The universe is speaking to me." There's another aspect of this transformation that's even more profound and, frankly, more unsettling than the synchronicities or time distortions. You've probably noticed that information just appears in your mind now. Knowledge that you never studied, insights that you never learned. Through any conventional means, you meet someone for the first time, and within seconds, you just know things about them. Not surface-level observations, but deep truths about their struggles, their pain, their hidden motivations. You walk into a room and immediately sense what happened there, as if the walls themselves are whispering stories to you. You pick up an object and receive impressions, emotions, fragments of the history embedded in that physical form. And the strangest part? You can't. Explain how you know these things. There's no logical pathway, no mental reasoning that led you to these conclusions. The information simply downloads directly into your consciousness, bypassing your rational mind entirely. Florence Scovel described this phenomenon as accessing what she called the cosmic library, an infinite field of knowledge that exists beyond the physical realm, available to anyone whose consciousness has expanded enough to tune into its frequency. This isn't psychic ability. In the way movies portray it, it's something far more fundamental. It's your awareness reconnecting with the unified field of intelligence that underlies all existence, the hidden truth that everything is connected through consciousness itself. And when you're aligned with that field, information flows to you effortlessly because you're no longer separate from it. The impact of this direct knowing completely transforms how you navigate decisions and relationships. You stop relying solely on external validation or proof because you've discovered an internal compass that's far more accurate and immediate than any intellectual analysis could ever be. Once this channel opens, and believe me, it opens permanently once you cross this threshold, you cannot go back to only trusting what you can prove through conventional means. You cannot return to the mindset that demands scientific evidence for everything, that dismisses intuition as wishful thinking, that reduces reality to what can be, measured and quantified. You've touched something beyond the limitations of the rational mind, and that experience fundamentally changes your relationship with knowledge itself. You become a knower rather than just a learner, someone who receives truth directly rather than accumulating it through external study. But here's where the journey gets incredibly difficult, and I need you to hear this because if you're experiencing what I'm about to describe, you need to know you're not alone, and you're not going crazy. Despite all these extraordinary abilities, despite the synchronicities and the knowing and the expanded awareness, there's a profound loneliness that settles into your bones, an existential isolation that can be absolutely devastating. You can be surrounded by family at a holiday dinner, sitting with friends at a gathering, lying next to your partner in bed, and feel completely, utterly, devastatingly alone. Not lonely in the sense of wanting company, but alone in the sense of being a different species, like an alien visiting from another planet who looks human but experiences reality in a completely different dimension. The truth behind this loneliness is simple but painful. Nobody around you can truly understand what you're experiencing because they literally cannot perceive the reality you're now living in. You're operating from fifth-dimensional consciousness while most people remain anchored in three-dimensional awareness. Same physical space, same conversations, but entirely different worlds. You try to share your experiences, your insights, your revelations, and you watch their eyes glaze over or see the polite smile that says they think you've lost your mind. It's not their fault, and it's not your fault. It's just that you've undergone a transformation that's moved you beyond the collective agreement about what reality is, and there's no going back to that limited perception. You've outgrown the unconscious collective the way an adult outgrows a child's playpen. You can still see it. You can still remember being there, but you physically cannot fit back into that tiny space anymore. Florence Scovel was absolutely clear that this loneliness, as heartbreaking as it feels, is actually preparation. You're being refined, being readied for your true soul family, the other awakened beings who do understand, who do see what you see, who do speak the language of expanded consciousness. But first, you must release your desperate need to be understood by people who simply aren't equipped to understand you yet. If you've felt this profound loneliness, even in crowded rooms, if you've experienced this sense of being an outsider in your own life, write in the comments, "I understand this loneliness." As you sit with this loneliness, as you begin to accept that you're navigating a different dimension of reality than most people around you, something else starts to shift in a way that might have already caught your attention. Look at what you valued 5 years ago compared to what matters to you now. If you're honest, There's been a complete inversion, a total reversal of priorities that would seem insane to your former self. The things you used to chase relentlessly, the impressive job title, the bigger salary, the perfect appearance, the social status, the accumulation of possessions, the validation from others, all of it feels hollow now, meaningless, like play acting in a game you no longer believe in. Meanwhile, the things you used to overlook or dismiss as impractical idealism, truth, authenticity, genuine connection, consciousness, love, being of service to others, these have become the only things that feel real, the only pursuits that actually matter to your soul. People around you might interpret this shift as you becoming lazy, unmotivated, or having some kind of quarter-life or midlife crisis. They see you turning down promotions, walking away from lucrative opportunities, caring less about how you look in photos, spending less time trying to impress people, and they genuinely worry that something has gone wrong with you. But here's the hidden truth they can't see. Nothing has gone wrong. Everything has gone profoundly right. You're not operating from ego anymore, from that desperate need to prove your worth through external achievements and social validation. You're operating from essence now, from the eternal part of yourself that recognizes temporary illusions for what they are. Your soul has taken the driver's seat, and the soul has completely different priorities than the personality you constructed to survive in three-dimensional reality. This transformation in your value system isn't something you can reverse through willpower or discipline or deciding to care about the old things again. The soul doesn't work backwards. It only evolves forward, always moving toward greater consciousness, deeper truth, more authentic expression. Once you've seen through the illusion, once you've recognized that the game of status and accumulation is just a distraction from what really matters, you cannot unsee it. You cannot force yourself to care about climbing corporate ladders or collecting material symbols of success when your entire being knows these things are temporary, surface level, ultimately empty pursuits that have nothing to do with why you're actually here. And that brings us to perhaps the most powerful revelation of this entire journey, the moment when your mission becomes crystal clear. You start feeling this deep, undeniable pull to serve something greater than yourself. It's not an intellectual decision or a moral obligation. It's a visceral knowing that you came here for a purpose that extends far beyond personal survival, comfort, or achievement. You feel compelled to help, to heal, to teach, to share, to contribute to making the world better in some way, even if you don't yet know exactly what form that service will take. The knowing is there, burning in your chest, keeping you awake at night, whispering to you in quiet moments that you have work to do, a role to play, a light to shine in a world that desperately needs it. Florence Scovel revealed something extraordinary through her decades of spiritual work. Every soul who awakens during this particular time in human history is a volunteer. You didn't end up here by accident or random chance. You chose to incarnate on Earth during this period of massive collective transformation. This planetary shift in consciousness that's happening right now, in real time, all around us. You came specifically to hold the light when others couldn't, to anchor higher frequencies when the collective was drowning in lower ones, to be a living bridge between the old paradigm and the emerging new reality. This isn't ego speaking. This is your soul remembering its contract, its agreement, its reason for being here. Once you recognize this mission, once you feel this call resonating through every cell of your body, you cannot unfeel it. You cannot ignore it. You cannot go back to living purely for yourself, focused solely on your personal comfort and pleasure and security. Your soul won't allow it, because you've remembered the behind-the-scenes truth of why you chose this life, this body, this particular moment in history. The journey forward becomes inevitable because staying small, playing safe, hiding your light, pretending you don't know what you know, none of that is possible anymore. If you felt this unmistakable pull toward service, if you know deep down that you came here for something bigger than yourself, write in the comments, "I remember my mission." So here we are, at the end of this conversation, and if you've made it this far, if you've stayed with me through every word, every revelation, every uncomfortable truth about what it means to truly awaken, then I already know something about you. You're not here by accident. You're not casually browsing content to pass the time. You're here because your soul recognized itself in this message, because something deep within you has been waiting to hear that you're not alone, that you're not broken, that what you're experiencing is real and valid, and part of a much larger transformation happening in human consciousness right now. This is exactly the kind of conversation we're having on this channel every single time I create a video. We're not talking about surface-level tips or quick fixes or feel-good platitudes that evaporate the moment you close the app. We're going deep into the actual mechanics of spiritual awakening, the real experiences that nobody else seems to be talking about honestly, the hidden dimensions of this journey that you need to understand if you're going to navigate it without losing yourself in the process. So if this resonated with you, if you want more of these conversations that actually speak to what you're living through, hit that subscribe button right now, because you're part of a community here that gets it, that sees what you see, that understands what you're going through. And look, if this video met you exactly where you are, if it put words to experiences you thought were impossible to articulate, do me a favor and write in the comments, "This message was meant for me." I read every single comment, and there's something powerful about declaring that recognition, about letting your soul confirm what your mind has been trying to understand. Plus, it helps me know I'm creating content that's actually serving the people who need it most. Before you go, if you felt that connection throughout this entire video, if something here shifted your perspective or validated your experience, just tap that like button. It's a small gesture, but it tells me we're on the same wavelength, that this work matters to you the way it matters to me. Now there's a video right here that goes even deeper into what happens after you recognize your mission, how to actually step into that role without burning out or getting lost in the overwhelm of it all. Click and continue with me over there, because the conversation doesn't end here. There's so much more to explore together, and I think you're going to find exactly what you need in that next video. I'll see you there.